Let's Talk Oculus is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to know how to support the show, go to patreon.com/playtestvr. What's up, Oculus nerds? I'm Dan from Playtest VR, and today we're going to have a completely different episode. This is what I'm going to call Let's Talk Oculus Unfiltered. Okay, so we're not going to talk about the news. We're not going to talk about the games. That will be for next week's episode when Samsung's back. But for this episode, we're going to have three guests. So let me just introduce you to them. So first, we have the wonderful Robyn, who's a VR blogger and content creator, to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
yeah, we can say that. Then we have the amazing Skeeva, who's the host of the Beyond Realities podcast, and that has a new season coming out soon.
Yeah. So we have Between Realities. It's every Friday at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time, and we talk about stuff like this pretty regularly and morals and ethics in VR and all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for having me, dude. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And then finally, we have Nick, who is a creative director and an app developer, as far as I'm aware.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. So in today's episode, we're going to solely talk about like discrimination in VR, abuse in VR, talk about some of our own stories, and I kind of want to set the premise of this episode as why it became. And the reason was because Nick put out a tweet a couple months ago now, I think back in July. And this is what she wrote. She wrote, "I don't think it's too much to ask that men in VR not molest my avatar and then laugh at me when I say it's not okay. It's disgusting how grown men act in VR sometimes. This is exactly why I tend to avoid multiplayer. I have the right to be there too and not to be harassed and assaulted." And when I read that tweet, I was pretty frustrated when I saw it, but it wasn't until I clicked on the comments and I saw, oh, not everybody is just frustrated. Some people think it's whatever you wrote was kind of stupid and you should like grow up, is what people kind of alluded to. So that's essentially why we all came together. Nick, I've heard that you've still received more bad things in VR.
Yeah, I mean, I have multiple recordings of, especially it happens a lot in Poker Stars, which I just have to say, Poker Stars, the moderation team is absolutely amazing. They're super quick on it when you provide them with video evidence to hand out bans. So like, I'm really happy with them. But it's happened like consistently, probably once a week sometimes, and it's predominantly grown men. And when they all get together too, it's not like a table of guys will stick up for me. They all laugh at me and they're like, it's just VR. Oh my God, it's just a joke. And today's podcast is going to get a little bit heavy. I'm going to share that like I'm a sexual assault survivor and victim. And, it hasn't just happened once to me. I've been raped twice, once by a friend's uncle who drugged me, and another by a guy who just passed me on the street and decided to pull my card. So, both of those incidents have had a profound effect on me. And I doubt that there's any woman out there that hasn't had some sort of sexual violence happen to her in her life, whether it's unwanted touching, unwanted words, or, to the higher end of the spectrum, which is like full on rape. And being told that it's just a joke, like who's laughing? Because I'm not laughing when it happens to me. Like I thought jokes, everybody's supposed to be laughing. Mm-hmm. And that's not what's happening. So it's not a joke, and to dismiss me like that and to tell me to grow up, grow a pair, or I don't belong here. Like, no, I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to have an opinion and have my voice. And to tell me that I'm being stupid or a snowflake, like it's bullshit and it's hurtful.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that, Nick. Well, first of all, I'm sorry that obviously you went all through that. I think that is one of the biggest problems of it, is that people just think it is just a video game and that's about it, but they don't think of the actual human aspect of it. They don't think of the person. They don't think of what potentially they've been through. I think it's also for what the
it's
experience
really,
is.
really easy, right, to forget because we're just avatars.
Definitely. Well, let me just read one of the comments from here. It said, someone said that they use female avatars all the time. This is a male person. And they confidently say, I have triple the amount of hours logged. I don't know how you would know that. Hasn't been one time that I didn't feel like I had options, or I didn't have some kind of control over how situations played out. If you don't use the tools provided, then you're provoking it yourself. Which,
right.
Where do we begin with that?
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. Right. So there are tools for sure. Like I can report, but like once something has gotten to the point where I need to use the report function, that act of like not being okay, something not being okay has already happened. Like the impact has already happened, so like that's great. Like you're getting punished after the fact of doing something that wasn't okay. But like, what about me, the person who is on the receiving end of it, or other people who are on the receiving end of abuse? Like it's like, yeah, there are tools, but they're not going to preemptively protect me until there's like a overall systemic shift and like change within the community at large to think that like it's not okay to be that way.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's like in normal society as well. Like if you get stabbed or whatever, some other example, and then that guy gets reported in crime and sent to the police, that's great, justice is served kind of, but still you're the one who's going to have to live with what's happened for a long time, if not the rest of your life. And it's a real shame, because from me, I'm sure Robyn and Skeeva can speak to this, is that we've been in the VR space for a little while now, and in terms of just the actual people on like Twitter, through either if they're content creators or developers, generally it feels like very nice. Like we have a little nice community, a niche community.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's really saddening to hear that, okay, the community on the surface is nice and everything, but once you get in, there's idiots for everywhere. But in VR, I feel like in VR it might be even worse, because you're so immersed in the action to get that abuse from you. Like as soon as you put that VR headset on, you're no longer in your safe space in your bedroom or in your living room or in your house.
Yeah,
right?
You're in a whole new world.
You're in a whole new world. It's not, I mean, being abused on games is one thing, but I think VR, because of that level of immersion, because it's so good in that, it also makes it worse when you do get abuse like that and you feel targeted, and then you feel like you're in no escape in a way. And then you take that VR headset off, and then you don't want to put that VR headset back on, because you feel like you put that on and you're going to get abused at, and, your mental health suffers, and it's
and the whole reason I got the Oculus Quest actually was due to, like, I'm in Spain currently, and our restrictions here have been pretty heavy for COVID. So we've been in lockdown for a big majority of it, and vaccinations were slow to roll out. And so like mental health was suffering. So here comes Oculus Quest, because I was like, oh, I've never really been into like console gaming. So I was looking at consoles, and Oculus came up, and I was like, oh my God, they have VR. And I knew that they had it for PC, but I'm a Mac user, sorry. So like it wasn't really accessible to me until the Oculus Quest 2 came out. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to get this. And the moment I got it and put the headset on, I was like, whoa, this is like childhood dream stuff, like finally coming true. And it was magical. And I wasn't doing any multiplayer stuff. And so I was like, wow. But then, I own over 200 titles in the Oculus Quest. And so like I'm on VR a lot. And so I was like, I got to start checking out some of the multiplayer stuff. And yeah, I mean, pretty quickly, the first game that I got was Population 1, did not go well at all. Then I got Real VR Fishing, which amazing. Like the men in that community are wonderful. They're super nice. They're like, I've not had any problems in that community of anybody being misbehaving. And if somebody is, it's like all the guys are pretty quick to shut it down. So, and that was a good. So then I was like, oh, maybe I'll venture into Poker Stars. And I like playing poker, but absolutely horrific. So yeah, it's like, it was a mental health tool for me to be able to like get out into different environments and different worlds when I was stuck and locked inside my apartment. And I get what you're saying about the community for VR creators being tight knit and super cool. It's like the early days of the internet. Like everybody thought it was all creeps and weirdos, but like the early days of the internet were super legit cool people, in my opinion. And then all the jerks came in and kind of like really ruined it. And I feel like that's Oculus Quest 2 is making it mainstream. And maybe that is, if it doesn't get fixed earlier on, we're going to have the same path as the internet took, right? Is like all the mainstream people coming in and misbehaving and kind of like taking the joy and the magic out of it.
Yeah, you're completely right.
It's true, you know, like one of what I've been working in VR for about 5 years, over 5 years now, but in the adult industry. So a little bit different, not quite gaming. So I'm aware of toxicity, what can happen in those kinds of realms. But I didn't actually start gaming until like a year and a half, like 2 years ago max. And I didn't grow up gaming or anything. Like I had played like Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? But that was like the extent really of like any gaming. And then it was the same thing for me. Like I used a bunch of different headsets for work, but it wasn't till I also purchased the Quest 2 that I had owned one myself. And it was like super liberating, and it opened up a whole new world for me. Like I started with rhythm games like Beat Saber and Synth Riders, and the communities there are just like, you know, everyone is so cool and helpful and friendly. And then I slowly went from there into like wave shooters like Drop Dead or Death Horizon. Or Death Horizon's not a wave shooter, but you know what I mean? That was kind of like the progression. And then I was ready for multiplayer. So I thought, and it was the same thing. I got Pop 1. And instantly I was like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I don't feel okay here. And it wasn't until like a couple months later where like Skeeva actually mentioned, like, come on, you got to get in there again. Like, I'll go with you. You know, we're going to make this a safe space. You know what I mean? And when I play with Skeeva, I feel super safe, you know, because he's not going to let any of that shit happen when he's around. And I like that. And I appreciate that. But yeah, even when I go in there still to this day, it's like, do you have a voice changer? What's wrong with you? And it's just like, no, man, like that's just my voice. I'm like a 37-year-old woman. I just sound like this, and you don't get to make fun of me for that. It's so weird, just even on that basic level, because when you take off that headset, all of those emotions and those feelings that you had are still as real as we can perceive them to be, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's the exact same for me. And like the fact that I have to feel like I have to go into multiplayer with like certain guys as like my bodyguards or my protectors, like, you know, I'm 38, and you know, like I'm approaching that age where like I can't be in a freaking VR game without chaperones to like protect me. That's ridiculous. And you know, anybody talking about this is just a game, it's fake, it's the internet. Okay, so you're gonna sit there and tell me that like online dating, you can't catch feelings for somebody that you've never met in real life? Like there's a whole reason the show Catfish exists. Okay, you can definitely catch feelings for somebody that you've never met and just spoken to over the internet. And another thing is like, you're telling me that like you don't have any sort of real feelings when you're having, you know, phone sex, virtual sex with your consenting partner? Like your body and your mind is probably like the most important thing. It sends signals to the rest of your body to respond. So like, I don't have to have a physical form in VR for my mind to send signals to the rest of my physical body in the real world, because that's how like it all works. It's all connected to your mind. You know, sexual assault survivors, a lot of us feel guilt about like maybe having an orgasm, or men who are raped are like, it can't be rape because I orgasmed. Story, that's not how that works. It's not, it's your mind sending a like physical response that's out of your control. So I don't want to hear this. It's just a game. It's fake. It's not. My mind is in that situation, and my mind is very real. And it's the most important thing that I have. And like, treat it with kindness, like to everybody.
So, you know, I've been gaming since the dawn of time, it feels like. So I started back in the Atari 2600 days, right? Before multiplayer, before all that stuff. And as multiplayer and online gaming became more and more popular, so came the toxicity and the gross people. And it's really, really sad, you know, and it's in flat gaming, I want to say it's even easier to get out of those situations, but that all of these games that I liked to play, I never played because the toxicity was so disgusting in these multiplayer games like Call of Duty games and stuff like that. The racism, the bigotry, the sexism has always been there, and it's been extremely nasty. And I think the people that say it's just a game, those are the cowards. Those are the true people that they need a place to go where they are anonymous, so they can be disgusting to people, and use the gaming thing as a cover up for themselves, right? So people say that stuff all the time. Even to this day, it's absolutely insane to me, because there is no, like, an energetic connection between two humans is very, very, very real. It transcends time, it transcends space. You know, it's a very important and real thing. You see kids that are getting harassed on social media that are younger, that don't know how to handle it and end up taking their own lives, right? Well, guess what? Those people are really dead. They're not fakely dead. Like, these are real things that happen to people because cowards that get beat down in their own lives feel like they have to go and take that on other people. You know, it's really super sad that all the, you know, that the cowards of the world have to go online and be anonymous and not do this to someone's face, right? Because they don't have the guts to be that gross to someone, to their face. And it's really terrible. You know, the whole thing with, you know, I've seen so many people say there's all these tools, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what, man? I put people in VR all the time. I have put so many people through their first VR experiences. It's ridiculous. To get someone inside of VR that's pretty new to even hit the right button is really, really hard, right? Like you think, oh, you know, I've been in there, I've spent thousands of hours in VR. I can navigate these systems very quickly and very efficiently, but it's because of the amount of time I've spent in there. I've always been a gamer. I've always been an IT guy. I know these systems very well, but someone that doesn't do this all the time can't like navigate these systems very quickly and block people and mute people and get out of these experiences. They feel stuck and trapped in a very immersed environment. And it's really messed up, you know, and I just, you know, I don't see any validity to what these people are saying in their arguments. I think it all stems from their own abuse and their own cowardness and their own all of this stuff. So anyway,
well, you're right. That's how bullies are. And in the end of the day, they feel they have some sort of insecurity, so they make you feel bad, so they feel better. That's just, you know, that's the way it's always worked, which is obviously a shame. But you kind of addressed already. We had another comment that said, "Bro, it's a video game. If you think it's a problem, or frankly, you have no business playing them. It's not sexual harassment because it's not real. just ones and zeros touching other ones and zeros. You can't feel it in any way. It's not even your body, which is kind of what we just addressed. And Robyn's gonna lose her shit.
Yeah, so am I. Like, I just think like,
are you kidding?
do you swear on your show? Are you
We
allowed to
can
swear
now.
on your show?
I just said it, so
Fuck
we might as
that
well.
guy.
We're in an
Fuck
unfiltered.
you.
We're in an unfiltered podcast, so go for it.
Fuck that. I'm sorry.
I
that's
mimic
bullshit.
Nick. Fuck that guy.
Like, seriously. I'm gonna fucking
my
1 and
cat
0
said
that
it.
guy's ass.
I don't know what else
I'm
to say.
sorry, like,
No, but for real, that's just like such an insensitive, like at the least insensitive thing to say to somebody. You know what I mean? Like oh man, sorry. I'm so flustered about it. And I knew this was going to happen. When this tweet went up and these exchanges were happening, like I know I shared with a couple of my friends, like I was crying for days. And I know I'm a very sensitive, emotional person, but I was crying for days because this was the first time I had really like butt heads with anybody in the community since joining. And I was so flustered because for me, it's almost like common sense to me that if you do something wrong and you hurt someone and they say, you hurt me, the response is to take that back on yourself, take the burden away from that person that you just hurt, say, I am fucking sorry. Yeah. I am sorry that I hurt you. I am going to try to be better and not do that next time. That's what sorry is. You know what I mean? Sorry isn't like just do something and then do it again and again and again. Sorry is like you actively decide that you are going to try your hardest not to do that again. And I feel like there wasn't even a lot of sorries on that thread. There was just a lot of like, this is my opinion and I have a right to an opinion. And you do. I guess everybody has a right to an opinion, but you don't have the right to be hurting people. You don't have the right to be attacking people online. Like, well, it's Twitter. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
But also the right to an opinion doesn't mean you're right.
Correct.
Doesn't mean you're right. Like, you can have an opinion all you want at the end of the day. If somebody tells you that your actions are hurting them, then no matter whether you think you are or not, you are. Like, you are. When somebody says, you have upset me and you've hurt me, then you have done so. You may have not done it with the intention of doing so. I'm not talking about what these guys did, because they definitely intended to incite hurt, you know what I mean, by those comments. But generally speaking, when somebody says like, I don't like what you did and that hurt, as you said, take it back on yourself and say, I'm going to try it and do better. And being called a snowflake. Yeah, being called a snowflake or like a feminazi. I got PMs calling me a feminazi, a snowflake, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, I saw a tweet that said, some people think my views are super radical and like leftist, but they come from the softest part of me that's like, I just want everyone to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I don't understand how anybody goes out there. Like, you can cry me a river and tell me you've had the most abusive upbringing. Like, this is not the suffering Olympics, because if you want to compete, I had a shitty upbringing. I had a shitty family. And you know what? I don't do that stuff. I don't go out and maliciously hurt people. I'm a nice, kind person, because that's how we need to be as a society to evolve. And like, VR is an opportunity to like create this new utopia and world. And like, you're going to go into VR and that's your first inclination is to be hateful, racist, misogynistic, transphobic, like all of homophobic, like all of these things. That's what that's the hill you're going to die on to defend, of being an asshole. I don't get it.
Like, that it would just been so easy, just be like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how hurtful what I said was. And, and you try to learn from it. It blows my mind when people are just holding on to so much anger and hate in their hearts, or in whatever the fuck they are, because like, honestly, it doesn't seem, very like humanitarian to be just going on social media and attacking people, or going in games and attacking people. Like, there was another multiplayer game that I had gone into I was so excited to. I was like, yes, another multiplayer. I'm going to try this one. And I got in there, and it was so strange because I had gone in and it was a lobby full of at least the men, the people who were playing actively. And it seems weird, but I was physically cornered by not only the opposing team, but my own team. Like they both ganged up on me. And I know, again, it's VR. Okay, take the headset off and it's done. But it's not, you know, I really felt threatened in that instance. And I was scared. And I commented about it. I made a tweet about it, and I reached out to the game about it. And, you know, they were great. You know, they tried to help me. They gave me resources to try to play in a more safe way. But then the next couple times I went in by myself, it was just more of the same. And, you know, to go back to the tools that Skeeva was talking about like the blocking and the muting and stuff, not shitting on Pop 1. I'm in there every day. It's my favorite game now. But, you know, even that blocking and that muting, if you block or mute someone in a game, like they can still hear you and they can still follow you around and harass you while you're trying to play the rest of the round. So how does that fix things? I can still see their tag above them as they run around and chase me, and God knows what they're saying to everyone else, you know? And it's preemptively things need to be done. And I don't know enough about the games industry personally to say like what are preemptive tools we could do, but I think blocking and I think muting are not enough.
I think just on that quick topic of just blocking and muting, I know in big screen, if any of you have been in there before, they have a cool feature where if you block somebody, you can't even see them. Their avatar's gone. It's like they're not even in there. They probably can still hear you. I don't know how that works, but you can't hear them. You can't even see their avatar. You won't even see their little logo. You won't even know that they're in the room. And you can put them on their permanently banned list. So then anytime you go into these rooms and they're there, you have no idea that they're there anymore, which I think is a really good tool to have. I know what I was going to say, though, is that in the end of the day, most of these games that we mentioning, you know, we mentioned PokerStars, we mentioned Pop 1, it's not the game's fault. It's the actual people itself. Not. And that's why we're talking here. I think the devs can probably implement better strategies in terms of their tools. But we go back to what we said before, is that what Skeeva was saying is that unless you know how these systems work, how do you know how the tools are going to work? And especially if you're in that situation getting abused, you might not even, the first thing might go, oh no, I'm going to block you. The first thing you want to like take your headset off,
take the headset off.
You know, you don't want to touch that headset again. There's now some kind of burden on there. And you know, so I was just looking at someone else's tweet. You just said, if you don't like it, change your privacy bubble or block people. It's a video game for F's sake. And it's such a ignorant comment. You know, it's not as simple as that. This is so.
I can't help but wonder if the people that say these things would willingly take their mothers and put them into these situations and go, Mom, don't worry, Mom. It's okay. It's just a video game. It doesn't matter that these people are saying terrible things about you. It's just a game, Mom. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen because these cowards are not. That doesn't help them feel better about their lives, right? So I sent out a retweet today that has a great quote, and it says, "You are personally responsible for becoming more ethical than the society you grew up in." Right. Yeah, so I think that hits the nail on the head, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a time where racism was almost normal, right? Like any like homophobia was very, very normal. All of these things were normalized versions of hatred that just I never understood. You know, there's it's crazy, man. It just blows my mind that there's all these people out there that are still so unevolved, right? Like I feel like since those times, some of us have evolved, and as a species, we are supposed to evolve to understand that these aren't things that we hate on. There's no what you do sexually, what you do, if you are male or female, doesn't affect me and doesn't need to. And it, like, I don't know why it even matters, it's just so frustrating because I like to try to think the best of humanity, but man, the internet makes it really hard.
Really hard. For sure.
No.
I think the word frustrating is so, the moral of this whole this like theme of this whole conversation we're having, because the solution's far away.
I don't know if I can share with you guys. I still have hidden. I can share my screen, the interactions from Poker Stars. If you can blur out the names of the people, so like people can get a little bit of a hint of like what happens when you hit the record button. I couldn't report them fast enough or catch the act of calling them out on it and the behavior.
What are you?
Chat.
What am I?
Do you really think it's cool to like grab at my avatar boobs?
Chat.
I'm about to piss in your ass.
You think that's funny?
Bet.
I guess.
It's not
I've
cool.
been drinking. Okay,
Well,
sorry.
still, like, it's not cool to do that. Like, would you do that to a woman in real life at a poker table?
Yeah.
Really?
I would, yeah.
No.
Cool. That's not cool at all.
He's a friend of mine. Yeah, he would.
You would
I
do
would
it to a
totally.
dude.
I would totally get kicked out and beat up.
yeah.
Would spend the night in jail and
That's
all
a
that.
call.
It's worth it. Worth it.
It's
I
worth
agree
it to
with
do
him.
that.
Yeah.
To grab
He's
these
right.
I'm not doing
that
it.
chick's
He is.
tits.
Dude.
Here, picture.
No. Jeez.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was the one.
I like him. I approve of this guy right here.
If you have seen him,
yeah.
please contact 911.
Chat.
Was this the man who molested you?
Chat.
Yeah, actually it was.
Player chat.
I'm glad you guys all think it's fucking funny. Grow
We
up.
found him. He's right here.
It is funny. Holy shit. That's
Sorry.
really
Actually,
funny.
it's not funny.
We're laughing. You don't get the joke. It's alright.
Oh, I don't get the joke of like
Yeah.
grabbing my avatar tits? Like, really? You think that's funny?
I'm sorry.
Look at
Yes.
Player folds.
I touched
Fold.
the dick, actually.
Learn to fucking respect women. It's not that hard.
I'd rather not.
It is hard.
Player folds.
Really, it's hard to respect women.
I respect women.
Yes.
Take a picture.
My penis is hard. Hey,
Player
right,
fold.
guys?
You guys are fucking idiots.
Guys,
Fucking
look.
hobby.
Look. Oh, that one? Guys.
Yes.
Guys, look. You
Oh,
ready?
me? For fucking calling out somebody fucking touching me inappropriately? Really? That makes me a fucking bitch?
VR, man.
Yeah, in VR.
Yo, girl. Yo, what up,
This
cutie?
bitch be wild.
What up, cutie?
Yeah,
Yo,
do you guys all want to get
it's
fucking
something
interaction
like that.
bans?
I meant Uncle
Yes,
Charles,
sir.
not Uncle Jen. That's my bad. Double fist bump. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I got it. My cigar is
Chat.
gone.
Oh no, I'm talking to some fucking idiots
Chat.
in VR who think it's funny to grab at my tits.
You shut up, you jingle
Chat.
you muffin. Go cook me a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
Go cook me a sandwich.
Oh, we need to play some.
Here,
back.
cigar.
God, I'm just trying to play
Here's
some
cigar.
poker. Here, I'll buy you one.
I need to pay the bills,
Dab
dog.
up, pal.
Come on.
Dab up.
Call.
Hmm? What's that, babe?
Hey, yo, make a
Oh.
dab up.
Oh, they wouldn't have the balls to try it in real life.
I bet.
How? Do it in real life.
Yeah.
Are you saying you want me to do it in real life? You want me to do
You
it
wouldn't
in
have the
real life?
fucking balls to do it in real
Oh, shoot,
life.
sorry, that no.
But yeah, as you can see, it's like the whole table gets in on it and they think that it's funny and it's like, yeah, you're cool, man. Oh my God, I would totally do this in real life. Like, and get arrested. It's worth it.
But the
Really?
thing's a
So
big
fucked
joke.
up.
It's a big game. It's you're with the boys. You make these jokes and such, but they don't understand the repercussions. They don't understand what problems it could be for the person who is getting harassed or abused or whatever you want to call it. It's
And so
thanks for
the
sharing
problem
that,
with that though is,
yeah, go on.
yeah, but the problem with that is like, so you saw how they were taking pictures of me, right? So that
Mhm.
gets saved to their folder with my username. Those guys got issued bans. They were able to PM me through Oculus by finding my username.
Mhm.
So just because I reported them in the app. They had taken pictures of me. They were able to find me through another avenue to then send me a message of calling me like a fucking crybaby because the mods issued them like interaction bans for 30 days and they were pissed off about it. So yeah, there's tools there, but like then they were able to harass me after the fact.
Yeah.
You know? How is that making it safe?
No protection.
It's like, it's not. And it's like, I reported it to, like, you can report chats to Facebook, but whether they do anything or not, because there was no context really to the message. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's no humans at Facebook who are, or if they are, it's like 5 seconds and they make a decision. And it's not really like they're not really actively scrutinizing stuff. So I just feel like the systems that are there that are in place are not great.
I wish Zuckerberg can watch this podcast because you know, if Facebook can do something on their level to try and regulate things in just the VR ecosystem on Oculus, then that'd be helpful as well. But
that's an interesting subject all of its own, right? Because I feel like they are attempting to do this right now in Facebook Horizons.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that they're trying to combat this is by recording everything that's happening all the time and using machine learning to analyze conversations and to try to spot harassment. Right now, in theory, that sounds like an awesome idea, right? Why not nip these people in the bud right away and make a better community where people don't get harassed? The problem with companies like Facebook doing this is then they use that data for everything. It's like the harassment thing is just oh yeah, we're going to help you. We're going to help you, but then we're also going to use this to extort you and to make you more of a product. And so like, I'm so torn between all of this stuff because I watched, some of those videos you just showed, and I'm sickened to not just to be a guy, but to be a human in general. It grosses me out. Like it really, really bums me out, but then there's this whole thing with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and not seeing us as humans at all, as seeing us as just products. Taking our bio data isn't good enough. Now, everything has to be recorded, and I don't know of a solution, and I wish I did. It's one of the hardest things that problems I think we're going to have to solve here.
Yeah.
Well, I think it helps that you. Oh, sorry, go, Robyn.
No, go ahead, Nick. It's all good.
I think that both of you as men coming to the table and showing support and solidarity is actually probably the largest and best step in the right direction, because I think when these issues, like, people seem to think that like it's a women's issue, but it's not. It's a men's issue, right? Like when men are the largest perpetrators of violence towards each other, towards women, towards children, it's not an us problem. It's a you problem. And I don't say that as in you specifically, but just like an overall sense. And like when you guys call that shit out, when you see it, when you call it out and you hold the people in your inner circle and in your communities accountable and make them have a basically social currency, essentially, right? So when you lower their social currency within the groups, it's the only way to get them to start changing their opinion. Because if you are going to pick on a certain subset of people, you already don't respect those people. Therefore, the people that you're bullying are never going to be able to change your mind. It has to be coming from the people that you respect. So the fact that you decided to talk about this, it means a lot, I think, for all women to have men step up to the plate and say like, hey, this is not okay. And I appreciate both of you guys showing support. And actually, yes, it was a garbage tsunami in the comment section, but there were also a lot of male people in the VR community who did step up and say like, hey guys, like, this is not okay. It's really gross. It's not appropriate. And that means a lot, because it shouldn't be on Robyn and I or any other woman or any other marginalized group of people to create change. It's actually on the oppressor's group to change the problem. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
No, definitely. I mean, when I saw your tweet, the first thing I thought, I was like, I have to get you on here to speak about this, because this is not okay. This is just simply not okay. I see all the people who have mentioned, people who I know as well, and I'm like, well, no, this needs to be spoke about and such. And I'm just reading some of the comments I've still got saved, and I'm just so frustrated by it all. This other person put, someone like myself who has never played these games, this conversation sounds totally ridiculous. I mean, okay. You are what I don't even know if you continue.
I've never had this experience, therefore
I've never had the experience, but this sounds
stupid.
Exist. You are saying your pretend self is going around the pretend world, socializing with pretend people, and your avatar is being assaulted. Call the pretend cops with your pretend phone. It's just more ignorance. Like that's probably the last one I'm going to read out, because it's just more of kind of all the same.
Infuriating.
Yeah, it's infuriating. And I think watching your video that you just shared is, for people, audio listeners, I keep forgetting it's a podcast. Definitely go on to the YouTube version of this so you can watch the video, because you can hear it, but watching it is a little bit more scary, because you can see them all pulling out these selfie sticks in the game and taking photos of Nick's avatar. And it's really disturbing. It's like watching one of these like real crime things on TV. You start watching it, you get really scared about your neighborhood and such, because you can hear about it, but then when you actually see it play out, it's horrible. It's pretty horrible. And I just want to say as well, it's not just harassment towards women, it's also all the other minority problems, right? You're talking about racism as well. I stopped playing Population 1 because of the racism. I never got any racism abuse to myself, because my avatar was just a generic person, generic white person. But I remember when you go into Pop 1, they have this like the start where everyone's in there, right? While the game's kind of loading, they're getting the players in. And the amount of like N-word drops I hear all the time, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. They all sound, they don't even sound like men, to be fair. They all sound like kids, which is the even more disturbing part, because that's the next generation, and then you're worried because their parents are probably those type of people, and that's why they're like this as well. And it doesn't fill me with much confidence, which is definitely the sad part. And like what Skeeva was saying earlier, that I don't know what the solution is, apart from just talking about it and about it.
Well, I think like a big part of it is like, in gaming communities, you have major influencers. I'm not going to start calling out influencers in the VR community. We know who you are and we love you. But I think at a time, maybe some of the responsibility could be falling on those people who are influencing kids, young boys, young women to act the way that they're acting. You know what I mean? Like, I love when I go into Pop 1 with like a friend to play and you get one rando on your squad. And I love it when it's just like this kid who is just like cool and kind and polite and wants to learn. And I'm just like, oh, sweetie, you're so rare. And I want to protect you because there's not enough even kids out there like that are just growing up into better people. And I'd like to call upon, the major influencers in our community to take a stance, because when you're not saying anything about it, when you're not having an opinion about it, it means that you're okay with it.
Yep.
And that goes for misogyny, that goes for bigotry, that goes for racism, that goes for all of it. If you're not having an opinion and you're actively ignoring the issue, then you're saying a part of you says it's okay. And I'd like to see big players in the VR community on podcasts talking about this stuff with their honest opinion and not worrying about the money they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Sorry, said it. But you know what I mean? Like, I lose followers like up and down like this every day. You know what I mean? And don't call me, I'm not an influencer in any way, at least when it comes to gaming and stuff. So I don't know. I would just like to see more discussions like this on panels with everybody talking about it and pretending it doesn't exist.
I get called out all the time for shitting on people's parades, right? Because we have all of this stuff that is, we've all wanted, a lot of us have really wanted virtual reality to kind of come up into the mainstream for a very long time. And myself being one of the biggest of those people, I really want VR to become mainstream because I love it so much, right? But so people often yell at me because I call out Facebook on their shit all the time, right? But my theory is like, first of all, if something's poisoning the well to the thing that I love, then I'm going to talk about it, right? Because that's all we really can do as people is make other people aware. If people aren't aware of these things, then whose fault is it? It's the people who know and don't ever say anything, right? And then people get put into these situations. Maybe they wouldn't if they knew some of the facts from the get-go. And it really, really makes me sad that as the general populace gets into VR, we have more and more problems with harassment and with racism and all of these awful things that come with general society, which blows my mind that it's still a thing, right? It's the year 2021. We are literally shooting rockets into space and landing them. We're entering digital realities that are really close to our own from our own homes. Like, this is insane to me that we have all of this technology, that we're so far into the future, but so many archaic views and mindsets still exist. And the people who know about it, that let it happen, are the ultimate in allowing this all to grow, to allowing the toxicity to grow. If we kind of scoop the poison out of the well while it's just a little bit, then maybe we can keep it clean and it'll be easier to keep it clean, right? But if we just sit there and we ignore it and we pretend none of these things are happening, then all of a sudden, 20 years down the road, our kids are going to be in VR, our kids are going to be experiencing these things, and they're going to say, why is this all so broken? What happened? This all came up while you were, while you were at the age to have a voice in these things. And I'll be damned if my kid ever says, well, why didn't you say anything, Dad? Well, I do, man. I do. And
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I think that's the thing. Like, people like you, people like Daniel, people like Robyn, like, I'm not involved in the community like you guys are. And you guys speaking out, and especially talking to younger people. Like, I didn't play console games really growing up. I stopped at like Nintendo, Sega, but I didn't get into the PlayStation, Xbox. And the whole reason for not doing that was because of the toxic communities that came along with those, right? So that prevented me from ever joining those communities. And we have this opportunity to correct the mistakes of the console generation. And to anybody saying it's just a game, like, there was a girl in Brazil who played Call of Duty mobile and was on a competitive team, and she was murdered by a boy from another team. Like, that line between gaming and reality is not such a far divide as people like to believe. Like, it is so immersive that people are murdering other people over a game in real life. And you spoke earlier about kids killing themselves because of being bullied online. That line is diminished. It's gone. It's like our digital lives and our real lives are so interconnected nowadays. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't, there is no line. It's completely blurred. And the more that we recognize that and realize that and accept that that is the actual reality that we live in, then maybe we can start looking at the problems and discussing them like they're not just this made up boogeyman situation, because they're very real.
You
Like,
couldn't be more right in this, because what we are trying to accomplish here is to blur the lines between reality and virtual realities to the point where you can't tell the difference, right? You know,
Yeah.
I do things like I suit up in haptic equipment, which is a pain in the ass, right? But like I put all this stuff on, you know, I put stuff on my arms, on my face, on my body, and I throw this headset on my face, and I do all of these things to immerse myself and to blur the lines between reality. 20 years from now, 50 years from now, these are not going to be, the lines are going to be so thin that they're going to be exactly the same, right? So not having foresight into the future is not an excuse to allow this type of behavior to keep happening. We have to nip this stuff now before it's so
rampant.
So, you know, just full of poison and bigotry and sexism and all of these things that you can't undo it. Like, we have to be better people, and we have to be better humans. Or what else is there? Because our kids, man, are the ones that are going to have to deal with our silence and our inability to step up for what's right. And, you know, eventually brain computer interfacing will be the norm, right? Things that people, these avatars will be able to touch you eventually, and you will be able to feel it. They will be able to do things to you that are not okay. And, you know, we're working towards this, you know, this utopia of digital realness, you know, and gotta nip this now, man. There's no excuse to be quiet.
And I think the people that are dismissing it are the people that maybe are not even dabbling in it to the point that some others, you know, like when I think about Neos, for instance, you know, Skeeva, you introduced me to that. And oh yeah, Skeeva, you've introduced me to a lot of VR. I appreciate that. But Neos especially, you know, the avatar that I use predominantly in there is, could you call it interactive? Like, the breasts move if you touch them. You can brush the hair. You know, the ears move. Oh yeah,
crazy.
And you throw on I have my haptics vest here behind me, but like you throw that on. I mean, your feet. You feel everything. You know what I mean? So my physical meat sack reality is experiencing exactly what's happening in VR because my brain, the meat sack brain is experiencing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that divide, that line is already becoming so thin.
Yeah. And see, like, I'm not even up on everything that's going on technology wise, but like the fact that you just confirmed it for me, like both of you guys have just confirmed it, like that's terrifying to me as somebody who's just an everyday user and not somebody who's like totally up on the know and all like everything that's like being worked on. That's scary because I am not liking the experience that I'm having in VR when other people are involved. And if it's only going to get more realistic where people like I can feel stuff like you said with haptic vests and stuff like that, it's not going to go mainstream because I'm not going to buy it. Like, I'm the target market, and that's fine. Maybe it'll just end up being like a friggin' sausage fest of a bunch of guys. But I doubt that there's going to be a lot of women wanting to go into that environment, or minorities, or people who are trans, LGBTQ, if they are at risk. And I should not have to go in and pretend to be a guy. I should be able to go into VR and be the person that I want to be, whether that's somebody who's not even in human form. Like, you know, like it's an expression of self that I don't get to have in the real world, possibly because of prejudices, and it's meant to be something beautiful. But if I'm not going to be able to partake in it, it's not going to be mainstream because I'm not going to put myself continuously time and time again in that situation. Like, yes, it's not on me. I shouldn't have to dress a certain way. Like, I don't, but the fact that I feel like I'm victim blaming myself is already not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. I was going to say, if you look at the whole history of gaming, Okay, I wasn't alive when the Atari was there, but back in those days as well, um, gaming was like predominantly catered towards men, right? I mean, one of the Nintendo's consoles used to be called the Game Boy, and it was used to be a boys thing. The girls would play with their dolls, the boys would play with their handheld video games. That's kind of like the thing in the 90s and such as I was growing up.
Yeah.
But I think now in 2021, we as like an industry, and this happens in like workplace as well, are trying to go for more of an equal amount. We want women gamers, we want women in tech and all these other things that are predominantly dominated by male. But the thing is, if we have all this harassment, and like Nick, you said, if all this harassment happens and then the women don't want to partake and it becomes a sausage fest, then we've just gone back to what it was in the 90s, and we're just going backwards, and we're not making any progress whatsoever.
Although I'm sure there's tons of guys that would be happy with that, though. That's the problem.
I'm not happy with that, though.
No, you're not happy with that, but I guarantee you there's a lot of guys that would be like, I look at the comments in that thing, it's like, you don't belong here. Why don't I belong here? Because I'm a woman who you view as sensitive and a snowflake. Like, why don't I belong there?
Yeah. It's not right. In the end of the day, it's not right. And I think, well, the other day I was in a VR trade show from Spatial Ape, and I was meeting all these developers, and my avatar was in there, and we were talking for like 2 and 3 hours, and I met these really cool people in there, and I've got their contacts, and they've been sending me emails and sending me what they've been playing, and it's been really fun. I remember saying them into this moment, I was like, this is what VR is about. It's not about the gaming, it's about the social aspect. It's the fact that you two are in Tokyo right now, and yet we're talking to you like we're literally standing next to each other talking about your product. And I was like, this is what VR is going to be. The gaming comes secondary. But the thing is, if we don't have like, the harassment taken care of, we're never going to get to that space. We're never going to get to that space. This is not going to thrive. It's not going to come mainstream how, all of us kind of want. And, people say, oh yeah, just it's not for you. Gaming's not for you. If you're a woman, forget about it then. Well, the thing is, if the women aren't there as well, the ecosystem doesn't grow. And in the end of the day, it's always going to become a niche, and it's not going to be beneficial to you as well. So,
or to developers who want to make money.
Exactly. So it's
not, like, they're not going to invest in it.
So like people,
you have intelligence and you can see this, but a lot of people doing the harassment are doing harassment because they're ignorant. They're generally not very smart people, right? They were brought up in probably not great social and family environments. They don't have the education to look back, or the foresight to kind of go back and look at history and look and see what the Nazis did and all of these other groups of people that act just like them, and to see how it turns out for the rest of society. All they care about is themselves and feeling good and setting off the dopamine receptors for themselves, right? Because when they're the targets of this harassment, it doesn't feel good to them. So what do? They have to go and lay it on to someone else so they can feel that. So they're just taking the generation prior's problems and saying, well, this is how it is. So I'm just going to be disgusting, just like the generation before me. So,
but I guess think at a certain point. Oh, sorry,
go, Robyn. Sorry.
I think at a certain point, that kind of upbringing can only be an excuse for so long. Yep. You know what I mean? I feel like where I grew up, it was, I'm not going to lie, it was like a pretty rich, white dominated neighborhood that was pretty racist and pretty classist. And I grew up there. And as an adult, or even as a teenager, I recognized very quickly that what was going on there was not okay. You know what I mean? And I took, again, that burden and that accountability on myself to make sure that I wasn't propagating that behavior or, continuing it into a different generation, so I understand that not everyone is privileged enough to to have access to education and, those kinds of things where they can broaden their minds and open their minds a little bit. But at some point, especially in the age of the internet, it's such a weak excuse.
You look at just politics in general. These are the most richest people and the most privileged people ever, and they've got the maybe even worse issues of what they're saying out there. So I think you're right. I think you can say you definitely education at an early age, but I think eventually that can't be an excuse either.
No,
there
it can't. And
shouldn't
going
be
back
any excuse to abuse somebody. Should be nothing.
No, exactly. And going back to what Skeeva said, like, I think it's maybe a big ask what I'm asking. Who knows? Maybe if you put it out there in the universe, it will come true. But I think we talked about earlier, people saying, really awful things. And I know that results in a block. I personally block some of the users because I don't feel like it's up to me to change their mind. But what I would like from the men in the community who don't agree with this behavior is don't block these people. Maybe open your arms to them, show them a different way, ask them why they're angry, what's going on in their lives. Because maybe they just need somebody to reach out and talk to them. Because I feel like when you close those walls down and you block people, or you don't give them an opportunity to learn, it just pushes them further into an extremist view that aligns with the anger that they have. And that's where you get a really dangerous situation. And then it starts feeding into it, because when you find those people who agree with you, who think it's okay to behave that way, they feel emboldened to act on it. So to all the men in VR and gaming in general who don't want to see women, minorities, anybody being picked on, I just ask that instead of blocking these people or getting angry with them, just hey man, what's up? Befriend these people, show them a better way. Say it's not okay, what is going on in your life. And you never know, if you just change one person, that person may say, hey, I used to think this way, but somebody changed it for me. Because that's what happened in my life. I didn't grow up with the best life. And I had people come into my life, thankfully, and show me kindness that I never got to experience growing up. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional.
No, it's okay there.
And they, showed me that you do deserve to be loved and you do deserve kindness, and never experiencing that and then getting it just because somebody wanted to, because that's how they are as a person. I was like, holy shit, I didn't even know people like that existed until it was shown to me. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, that's who I want to be. I want to be this person who puts love out into the world, not hate and anger. And I think that's how we eradicate it, is just by not turning our backs on these angry people, but opening our arms. And yeah,
I agree with that.
I mean,
I agree. I grew up, despite my privilege, I grew up a really angry, antsy kid. If it was bad, I did it. You know what I mean? And I had so much anger and so much hate for everything and everybody. And it took so many years of my life, just finally being I'm so tired of being angry and hateful and just all the time. And it was that decision of consciously just switching it and switching that, and then just making sure that the people around, that's why my Twitter profile, it says blah, 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 blah. This is who I am. P.S. I love you, because I might not know you, but until you give me a really, really good reason not to, I do love you. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I think
who you are, radiating.
Unconditional.
Yeah.
It's unconditional for regardless of who you are. And, even the people that were in those comments on the tweet, completely deplorable, their actions that day. But I hope that they go and they find help that they need, and they find someone that they can talk that stuff out with, because they're going to be better people, and they're going to feel better if they just reach out and get some help. And if there were people in that in the comment section there that I had butt heads with as well, and they do want to talk about it and discuss things, my DMs are always open. because I feel like you can always do better and always try to do better, even if you fucked up.
What I was
Yep.
gonna say as we go trying to wrap this up here, what I was gonna say is that I'm pretty sure all four of us are kind of aligned in this. Like, if there's, yeah, we've got those people who have said it, but the people who are experiencing the same hate or similar hate or any sort of hate, Nick was courageous enough to actually tweet that, and now we're talking about it, which is great. But not everybody is. Not everybody has had that person that they've spoken to who's given them a little bit of light in order to them to push to do something like this and tweet something. So I just want to say, anyone who is listening to this and do experience this or resonate with this, feel free to reach out to any of us. I feel like we're all kind of aligned on that. Either reach us out on Twitter. You can email this podcast at letstalkoculus@gmail.com as well. Obviously everything in privacy. But we're there for you as well. In the end of the day, we're aware, we're in VR all the time, whether we're a man, woman, different colors, whatever. We all have experienced some sort of, we do understand. We've seen the examples from Nick that's shown in today. Definitely reach out, because you're not alone. We're like a lot of us go through this, but a lot of us are silent. So definitely speak up. And like I said, you don't have to speak up on a public level. Just DM one of us. We're all there to help. And what I was going to say as well, as we just come to the close, it'd be nice to end this on a bit of a lighter note in terms of,
Yeah.
I was going to ask to all three of you, actually, is there any games or any different methods that you've seen that will help? Like, is there any games that have a positive community? I know, Nick, you mentioned the fishing game, the real VR
real
fishing.
VR fishing. And if you like shooters, Larcenauts, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. All the guys in there have been like super, super helpful, not creepy at all. And I think one guy was once, and it got called out, shut down immediately. But overwhelmingly, it's now become my favorite game. I'm spending the most amount of hours in it because I do want to play multiplayer shooter games. But it's got a fantastic and non-toxic community in it.
Sweet. Robyn Skeeva, got any recommendations?
I think for me, the least toxic experiences I've had in VR has been when I've been in Neos, which is, you can't call that a game. That is like an experience. You know what I mean? And every single person that I have met when I've been inside Neos has been like above and beyond what you expect of a community. And I've loved that so much. Everyone is there to help. No one is, you can be whoever you can be because your avatar is who you are, and nobody's judging that in there. And I'd love to see that kind of thing in like our entire community.
Yeah.
Skeeva, any thoughts?
The bigger something gets, the more of the shenanigans come in with it. I feel the same as Robyn right now. I feel like Neos is a very amazing community of people that will stand up for others and not allow the type of behavior that you see in other platforms. But it's small. It's in its infancy. Yeah. I feel like maybe VR chat was like that back in the day when it was little too. But as people kind of flood over, it's too bad that with people comes toxicity, right? Yeah. It's really a sad thing. At the moment, I'd give a shout out to Neos as well for being an accepting community of great people.
Yeah, but it's only PC VR, right?
Yeah,
it is.
It's not on Oculus Quest 2 yet. Yeah,
right.
That's true.
I was gonna say as well. For me, yeah, you're right, Skeeva. You're totally right. I think though, to Nick's point on Larcenauts, I think there's always going to be an idiot. But the nice thing to see in that case there is that everyone realizes that in the group and takes action on it. And that's fantastic. Where we had the example in PokerStars where everyone was aligned with the asshole in the end of the day.
Yep.
And then you
100%.
just get ganged up on, and that's what we don't want, right? Because I think no matter what game you're going to go into, whatever game that we recommend, whatever experience that we recommend, it's always going to be an asshole, right? But it also depends on the community around that, right? Is the predominant community nice people who are going to get your back? Great. Then I could still recommend.
Yeah, and I wasn't a regular player when this happened. I was like new, like fresh, only a couple days in. So when this happened, it's not like I'm like this regular player who all the people know and like, hey, she's cool. Like I was brand spanking new. I just played with these guys for the first time and like full on like, hey, shut up, man. And it stopped. Like it was perfect.
Definitely.
And it's been that way ever since.
And with more and more people getting into VR because of especially the Quest, how it's so accessible, you know, all of us, we want like good experiences. Me and Samson talk about it on the podcast all the time. Like if the first VR experience for a newbie is bad, then they're not going to play it. And we're normally referring to motion sickness in that result. But, you know, you factor in harassment as well, you know, they're never going to touch it again. I think on my recommendation will be two things. I think for me in the games I've played, ProPut and Top Golf have been a really good community. What I've experienced, Walkabout the same mini golf. Not so much Walkabout mini golf. There's a lot of kids sometimes in there, but ProPut seems to be more adults.
Yeah,
but I've always had a good community with people in there. And also I just want to echo, because I spoke to Samson about this a few episodes before. He recommended going into some Discord groups. I don't have a Discord for this channel or anything. Skeeva, do you have one for Between Realities?
I do, yeah. Well, you can hop over to the Between Realities YouTube channel, click on any of the videos, and the Discord link will be in the description. And we do not put up with any bullshit in our Discord. So
exactly.
Come on over,
So
be safe.
Find communities like that. We have the Between Realities one there. I give a shout out to Gamertag VR as well. His community on Discord is very nice. I've been in there before. I don't use Discord that much, so I'm just judging on what Samson's told me, because he's always in every Discord, and I'm sure Robyn is as well. I can tell by her face right now.
I am as well.
Yeah, so I think finding people to play with through the Discord community is a good option. I know that's not like an ideal solution because people who are new to VR don't have a clue what Discord is. It is a little bit complex when you first do it. I remember one of our Patreon subscribers, she was like, I just got Discord and I have no idea how to use it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know either, to be honest. I was like, you're gonna have to ask Samson, because I don't really use it that much. But that is one of some sort of solution that you could use for now to find, you know, nice people around, especially if you're having a problem in stuff like Poker Styles or Pop One. You know, maybe you really love Poker Styles. I don't want assholes to ruin that game for you. Like, there is communities, if you go to, you know, probably Skeeva's Discord, Gamertag Skeeva, or some other good community out there. I'm sure you can find some good players who would like to play often. But yeah.
Can I give a shout out to a Facebook group and definitely. Discord group? So for any women who are maybe not wanting to play with other men and are looking for an awesome group of women, they have a Discord channel, but the Facebook group is Oculus Quest Ladies. It's an inclusive group. So if you identify as a woman, you're totally welcome. There's regular events all the time where it's invite only women events, and they are super kind, absolutely amazing. I think there's like 6,000 or 7,000 members so far. Mm-hmm. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, and there's one of a new patron, his name's Eric. He mentioned there's another Facebook group for over 50-year-olds or over 40-year-olds, and he says he loves that community, and just, you know,
I am in that one as well. They're really nice. Yeah. I'm not over 40, but I asked if I could be in it because I like the older people. Like, I love playing real VR fishing and teaching 80-year-olds how to fish. It's like one of my favorite things. That, like, I had some grandma who was in her 70s who she's like, I grew up during like the era of drugs, and like, I love that weed is legal now. And I was like, oh my God, she's just talking to me about this stuff. And I'm like, this is brilliant that you were on VR. She's like, yeah, I can't travel. Like, I'm old. I can't move. And like the social aspect of it has been like life-saving for me. And Like, I'm just like, I love old people. So I'm like, can I please be part of the over 40 group? I'm cool. And they're like, yeah, sure. Why not?
This is the coolest grandma I've ever heard.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my God, you're rad.
With my
Like,
grandma
I
played
love
VR.
I'm trying to get my mom in on it. She hates it. She had a bad experience first time in, so she's like, nah, I don't see it.
Yeah, once someone has a bad experience, you kind of got to massage them back into, like, give them baby steps, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
My
why we
dad
gotta
is
get rid of
coming
these.
to visit. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, straight up, talking about like older people using VR. My dad is coming to visit over Labor Day weekend, and he's going to be trying VR with me for the first time. And I am freaking out excited that I get to teach my 65-year-old dad how to hang out in VR.
That's fun.
Amazing.
Sorry, Skeeva.
No, I think this is a lot less heavy than the real intense issues we're talking about here today. But I think we also have to kind of educate people on these crappy experiences that you see at the mall, right? Where it's like 3DOF headsets and a little pod where they're putting you through a roller coaster and making you sick and kind of poisoning the VR well there in a different way, right? Because then people are like, oh, I don't want it. I tried VR and it's terrible. So
yeah, they exist. I mean, I did way back.
I've not seen that before.
Months ago, I did a video, like a 3-minute video on my channel saying how to avoid motion sickness. And the last thing I said, don't put the first experience in a roller coaster simulator. That's the worst thing you could do, as much as how cool it looks. But
Richie's plank, throwing people pushing each other when they're in there.
I love the little dancing Oculus guy.
Oh, in the first steps?
He was so cute. Oh my God, it was so cute.
Yeah.
And like the other one where you're like the little blimp and you're throwing, like, I just think those ones were like, whoa, that was my first experience and I was blown away.
I always
that's
show
like the safest.
I always show first steps first, just because
it's so cute.
Also, it's they can graph the controls with the controller, and it has a little bit of hand tracking in now, I think, since it's been updated. So I think it's a really good first experience for people in VR. But yeah,
you also had a cool social experience when you were here in Montreal too, right? You went and visited Lethality.
Yeah, they did this. I have a video on the channel, so I won't talk too much about it. But in Montreal, they had this the Felix and Paul Studios, who do a lot of VR experiences.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, they do. They had this whole hall, this like gallery, bought out, and you essentially put the Oculus headset on. You walk into this room with a bunch of other people, and you're in the International Space Center. Station, and you're walking around and you're seeing experiences and such, and it was great. That was I heard a lot of people next to me, because we all had headsets on, but I heard people next to me like, oh my God, this is amazing, and you saw grandmas in there, you'll see little girls and little boys in there as well, and it was pretty nice. For me, I was like, I said to Robyn after, I was like, it was good, but for someone who's played VR all the time, it was like, yeah. But for someone who's new to VR, that was fun. But yeah, don't do any the mobile, like with the phone Samsung Gear stuff that Skeeva is kind of alluding to. But yeah, so that's the podcast. It's been a heavy one, but it's definitely been something that we need to talk about. And although this podcast is kind of just a one-off, it's like a Let's Talk Oculus Unfiltered. We might do something like this in the future again, but the conversation doesn't stop right here with the podcast. We need to continue this conversation, continue to have it on all the social platforms, the Twitters and such, and just essentially be a good human, for goodness sake, you know. And if
that's what it comes down to.
Exactly. And if you hear that stuff, you see that stuff happening in VR, don't be afraid to speak up. You know, according to some of these comments, in the end, it's just a game, so go for it. Speak up, tell these people, put them in their place. So thank you.
And if it's just if it's just a game and you're a rotten person in real life, then maybe step into a game and pretend to be somebody else, like a nice person.
Yeah,
try it out. It might actually make you feel good.
I was about to say, you might feel a little bit better about it.
Better. Yeah,
definitely. But thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Robyn. Thanks, Skeeva. Thanks, Nick, as well, for especially telling the stories as well. I know that mustn't have been easy for you. coming on this show. But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope everyone listening had a good educational awareness day, I guess. And yeah, can take what we've said and put it further, whether you're the type of person who would say this and start to realize, oh, I've been a bit of a shitty person, it's time for me to, you know, if you've done stuff like this in the past, it doesn't mean that you're bad. You know, there's always time to change. And you know, that's what
nobody's perfect.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. I will put all links in the show notes for everything that we've kind of talked about. Nick, with your Facebook groups there as well, and Skeeva with your Between Realities and the Discord as well. And then Robyn, I'll put your name in there just because it's Robyn.
My Twitter's good. My Twitter's good.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
And really, thanks a lot for having me. And I wish I would have met you all under different circumstances for sure. But hey, you know, the universe works in weird ways.
Yeah, we're definitely sure to play a VR game together one day, you know.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome to talk to all you guys. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much.